Hi, everybody. Welcome to the third week of the B term of the summer 2016 semester in American Literature. All right, so this week we're going to take a look at the settlement and English colonization of North America. So last week we went through the early exploration. We went through starting with Eric the Red and working our way through a lot of the Spanish and Portuguese explorers, and then into we got a glimpse of Sir Walter Raleigh. So this week we're going to take a look at England coming over. And so we're going to start that with John Smith. John Smith was a master self-promoter. He also, if John Smith were alive today, he would probably be working in marketing somewhere, because he can advertise like you wouldn't believe. So he's going to advertise America as a land of opportunity, as a land that, he says, hey, you're poor in England, you're living in these ghettos in England, and you're not doing so well. But come to America. You can have a nice little home, and you can farm your own land, and you don't have to be poor all the time. You don't have to be in debt all the time. You can come over here to America, and through hard work, you can get what you need. Now, of course, that's the beginnings of the work ethic. Speaking of work ethic, the reading by William Bradford, of course, you're going to have to read John Winthrop, too, who's going to talk about how law should somehow be based in Christianity, and I'll let you read that, and then I'll let you look at the slideshow. But William Bradford was on the Mayflower. Talk about work ethic. The Puritans had it. The Puritans were not a very fun bunch. A lot of times people would become Puritans, and their children would run screaming away from the Puritan church. So the Puritans believed in plainness. They believed in hard work. They did not believe a lot in ceremony, like church ceremony. They believed that churches should be in just plain wooden buildings. They didn't believe in cathedrals and things like that. But the work ethic is the important thing. But what's really good about Bradford is that he gives you an idea, first of all, of the persecution that they suffered in England, the Puritans, and then the Puritans suffered more persecution in the Netherlands. They lived in the Netherlands peacefully for over a decade. But they saw that the Spanish Armada was coming to try to go to war with the Netherlands, and the Puritans said this isn't good, because if the Spanish Armada conquers the Netherlands, then it will become a Catholic country, and we won't be able to practice our Puritan religion anymore. So they decided that despite all the hardships that were in America, it would be a better choice than staying in the Netherlands and being ruled by Catholics. So they get on this Mayflower, which was highly overcrowded and was not designed as a passenger ship. It was actually designed as a freighter. And about midway through the journey, there's a big storm, and the ship almost comes apart, and it's up to the ship's crew to save it. So there's some drama here. We're finally starting to get into some drama where, oh my gosh, how is this ship going to stay together? And the crew comes to the rescue. And then, of course, he talks about the first winter there. The amazing thing about the trip on the Mayflower is no more than one or two of the Puritans died. Now, we don't read the chapter where a young man, one of the sailors, who's talking about how he's going to throw all these dead Puritans overboard, is the first one to die himself. And so, Bradford read that as being justice. I don't think that's in our readings for this semester. But that first winter was very hard, because they had to battle the cold, they had to battle the Native Americans, and while only one or two of the Puritans died on the Mayflower, many died that first winter on the North American continent. And then Roger Williams. This whole idea of separation of church and state is based in Roger Williams. And Williams believed in separation of church and state for this reason. He believed that the government would corrupt the church. Now when people make the argument for separation of church and state, they say, well, the church is corrupting the government. But Roger Williams believed the other way around. He thought that the church was pure and that government would corrupt it, so they should be kept separately. He also talks about how government has its job, church has its job, and the two should not be combined. So when you hear the separation of church and state argument, Roger Williams is the one that's based on. And you're going to read him this week as well. All right, so let us talk about these papers, because I was very disappointed in the first ones. All right, let's go through the grade breakdown. Some people did very well. There were 4 A's and there were 10 B's. The rest were C's and D's. And there are far too many C's and D's. And some of those B papers were actually B minuses, like an 81 or an 80, so they were almost C papers. I gave you lots of comments on these papers. I gave you a breakdown based on rubric, and then if you look in the document itself, you'll see my comments in these little blue bubbles. You put the cursor over the blue bubble and it expands the comment. I emailed you the instructions on how to do that. I also had to email you other instructions that you should have found on your own in the D2L or in the Brightspace. One of those was how to format a paper. I said in the video on, if you watch that video, I know it was like 25 or 30 minutes long, but if you watch that video on how to write these papers, I told you then that there's a handout in the MLA folder that if you follow all the instructions on it, you should get a perfect 6 out of 6. Apparently only about 3 or 4 people either watched the videos, or only about 3 or 4 people decided to go looking for that document, because all but about those 3 or 4 got points knocked off on formatting for not having a header, or for having the wrong font, or for having too much space between paragraphs. Folks, that's an easy 6 points. You gotta open up these documents. I can only post them on the D2L. It's up to you to actually read them, open them, read them, and then follow the instructions in them. Another thing that a lot of people got counted off on was the citing. So I put that citing pros in there again. Now, one mistake that a lot of students made, and I mean more than half made, was that when they cited these creation stories, they cited it by Giles Gunn's name instead of citing it by the tribe that actually wrote the story. The creation stories were an unusual citations thing, because you weren't citing individual authors, you were citing the tribes, and you weren't citing, and really you didn't even need to put the tribe's name in there. If you said according to the Cherokee, blah, 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 really all you needed was the page number in the parentheses, and that's it. And then, of course, you had to cite the Bible, and the rules for citing the Bible are a little bit unusual. I guess I should have probably told you about that. But for the rest of the semester, you're not going to have to cite the Bible, and for the rest of the semester, everything that you read will have an author's name. So when you write these stories for this week on the early exploration, when you're quoting John Smith, the citation will be Smith and the page number. Or if you say according to John Smith, blah, 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 you don't even need to put his name in there. You just put the page number and that's it. This is something you should learn in English 1102. In English 1102, you should have learned to cite by author name and not by editor name. So I was a little bit disappointed that so many students, in fact, most students, cited by Gunn instead of citing by the Native American tribe. So there's that. That'll be due next Monday. So I will try to get those papers on the early explorers graded as soon as possible. And then that'll be the last time I make a lot of comments. Those of you that did not turn in a Creation Stories paper, you have fallen behind in a 5-week semester. That's not a good idea. You gotta stay caught up. You gotta stay on top of this. One thing I will not do is read all 5 of your papers at the end of the semester. If you decide that you're going to turn all 5 of your papers in on July 27th, the first 3 are going to be automatic Fs. Not even going to read them. Just say, boom, done. And then I will grade the other 2 based upon however you do as far as writing the papers go. So, don't fall behind. Stay on top of it. I want to give out a bunch of A's this week. So I hope that you took the time to read the stories before you, or read my comments before you actually write the early exploration papers. And then I want you to read the comments on both papers before you do the English settlement papers. Because the purpose of those comments is if you don't address those issues in the first paper, you'll probably have those same mistakes in the rest of the papers. So if you address them, then you will not have so many mistakes. So take the time to read my comments. Take the time to write these papers carefully. Take the time to format your quotations correctly and to cite them correctly. And take the time to format the paper. That should be an easy 6 out of 6. Too many of you got like 1 out of 6. So, again, you've got to take some initiative on your own. I can only provide so much, and then it's up to you to open it and read it. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or contact me by phone. On Monday, I probably won't be in my office very much. I've got all kinds of meetings concerning this merger with Albany State. So I'll be busy pretty much the whole day. But you might catch me in my office if you call me. Or if you send me an email, I'll be glad to answer that email very quickly, as quickly as I can. The rest of the week should be fine. I should be in my office during my office hours. So with that in mind, hope you enjoy reading about the early English settlers, and we'll go from there.